Hi, everybody. Welcome to A to Z of AI. We are delighted to have you join us with John Glasgow, CEO and CFO of Campfire. John, you and I first got connected about 2 years ago as you were building Campfire early on, and you quickly jumped into wanting to engage our CFO audience via the F-Suite.
Yeah.
And before we get started, I just want to acknowledge perhaps the journey of at least Campfire in the past year. And it's been pretty incredible. If I'm not mistaken, you've gone from 12 to over 100 employees. I think you raised over $100 million in the span of 12 weeks?
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, launched Embers within Campfire. So much has happened, and I'm just like scraping the surface here. But obviously, first, we want to say welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here, and would love for you to just introduce yourself and also Campfire to our audience.
Of course. And Anthony and Zach, honored to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. As noted, I'm the founder and CEO at Campfire. We are the AI native ERP for high growth companies. Many of the fastest growing AI natives like Replit and PostHog are on Campfire, but also many offline businesses as well. People are building airplanes with Boom Arrow or other, flight schools, professional service firms. We see a full spectrum of companies. And as a former finance leader myself, 10 plus year career in corporate finance, left it all behind to go build Campfire as the ERP I wish we were on as we scaled through exits through, at public companies, private companies, and M&A events. And so ultimately building for myself, and peers have felt that they really felt the product's built for them. So thanks for having me on today. Excited to share our story and just very, very candidly share how we're using AI at Campfire.
Awesome. Well, John, let's get started. And just to maybe set the reference point, thinking back to November 2022 and fast forward to today, how has your work changed given Gen AI coming to the scene?
Yeah, it was slower at first. Like our engineering team really saw the power of it. They've gone as far as now a lot of them have microphones and they're like kind of conversing as they write code. And so I look at engineering as being a year or two ahead of accounting, and that's been instrumental. We're in office here in SF, so I walk over to our engineering team. We have AI engineering here, product, edge design. Seeing designers are now kind of writing their own code. I think to your point, like the early days, call like end of 22, early 23, that was the big unlock. And then it came over to finance and accounting workloads. First, it was prompt based, whereas like, hey, we're just going to prompt it. We're going to ask it to write an accrual. It's more of like a search engine at the time, but the very powerful one. And then to your point on the Ember launch, but even before then, we went to more of an autonomous state with agents. And what I'm most excited about with agents, whether it's Campfires or otherwise, is I do think of AI as a member of the team. And so agents are able to operate more autonomously as a member of the team, where in the prior world where it was prompt-based, it was it took a lot of your effort. But now it's like once it's been trained, once it's running correctly, allowing it to operate differently, that's been one of the bigger unlocks. And as the models have gotten more powerful in the last 6 months, I think, even Opus 4.7, I think was today, that it's like, wow, there's still a lot that we're learning about the power of the systems. And so it's been a fun journey as a founder, CEO, and still the CFO here at Campfire on how can we innovate on our finance and accounting workloads.
So, John, that's awesome. It's fantastic. I mean, before we even get into use cases, thinking about using AI in the context of something like high growth company accounting, right? This is exactly the kind of area that many people would be really worried to insert AI, right? Because the last thing you would want, of course, is for something to fail silently in a really big way. So I'd love to hear more about that. I mean, how do you end up using these tools in a way that, actually creates, more certainty for your clients and improves things? Because this is one of those, it's tricky because it's not a misconception, but it's also not so simple as AI hallucinates, right?
Yes, hallucinations. And I was using AI over the weekend, and it was hallucinating on me, and it's scary. It actually had, I was using our CRM MCP, and it switched the name of the sales reps, and it said one rep was doing really well and one was wrong. And I was like, are you sure? And it was like, oops. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like this is a pretty big error. Um, so it's scary stuff. I mean, we have built our own foundation model,
Yeah.
and that has allowed us to operate in a different level of rigor. In terms of the quality of the output, we've seen tremendous results of just like a very narrow accounting workloads we can bring to our own in-house model, and the performance has been great. I think we've still partnered with the Anthropics of the world. They did a case study about us, but what we've seen there was not just like from a scalability of the data set, but like let's say you want to feed 100 million rows of accounting data into a model. That's too much that's too much data, too many tokens. And then to your point, they also will hallucinate. Models will follow this framework of, they look for like the next best character, next best word, like large language models kind of just one after the other. When it comes to numbers, it can like, once it kind of starts the wrong direction and go like really off course on like the next best number. And so we have seen tremendous improvements on writing code, like Python and SQL. And then code, there's a lot of rigor applied to the models for writing code. And so then we've seen not only the scalability of like, it's a SQL command against 100 million rows of data, but also it moves from called probabilistic, where it's kind of thinks it's following the next best, to deterministic, that it wrote code against the solution. And that has been an area where we've seen dramatic reduction in hallucinations, but also dramatic improvement in scalability.
It's great to hear you mention this point, John, because this is really cutting straight to, I think, the common misconception that people have who don't build with these tools, right? Is just because AI may be involved in most steps of the process, that does not mean that everything is probabilistic. AI can script. You have actually deterministic code that oftentimes it's executing on, and you have enormous control over that, right? So it's not as though you have prediction for every single number in your platform. Very far from it, right?
Correct. That's a good way to put it. And look, we've also seen AI do a great job at reviewing human work.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of agents, in our platform, and folks outside, like it is checking for like, hey, we're uploading all of our accounting policies, or here's like the board deck. Can you just like tie out all the numbers in the deck? Something very laborious. Let's say it says, here's 5 things for review. Maybe 2 it actually was like intentionally, not tying out for whatever reason. But then there's 3, it's like, wow, this was actually something we missed. And so I think like review state is another way you can get started with AI, because it fails silently. But even, I was talking to a customer yesterday for travel, billions of dollars in bookings running through the platform, and they're using it at such a high volume. I asked them, how do you even know when it's right? And they're like, well, we have like, as opposed to us spending all day doing the reconciliations and manual match, we now move to a sampling state. And so humans will sample the data set, as opposed to us manually doing it all. And the end state was as much higher quality work, because they flipped it. It's now AI doing the work, and then humans reviewing and auditing. And so I think, no one wants to be doing, call it digital factory work, tagging transactions all day. I think there's other things we'd all love to be doing. And that was the other big value we're hearing from AI as well.
It's awesome.
Fantastic.
John, we'd love to jump into, maybe take us into your day-to-day. How are you currently using AI as CEO of the company?
Yeah. I mean, I would say Claude Co-work was transformative for me before I was in Claude Code, and Co-work more have brought the power to kind of just fully to the end user in a way that is just like almost impossible to get stuck. And we did an all hands internally, and for each function at the company, like sales and not engineering, they were already using it, but for like sales, marketing, customer success, I built a task, or I did a task, or built an app, built some slides for each function. And I demoed like, in Co-work, here's all the things you can do. And then launched a channel called Show and Tell, where everybody just started posting. We started really rewarding people And internally, folks still come up to me and say like, that was a catalyst for like us to really, go AI native internally. And so I recommend folks to like really encourage AI use, kind of celebrate it. We don't stress about costs on AI. We don't stress about kind of, I know usage-based can be harder to forecast. We're just very focused on adoption. So candidly, I essentially approve all AI tooling
Yeah.
Internally. We're seeing it kind of go against more human budget as opposed to software budget. So it's really opened up the aperture a bit. And so I think that's been big. Now on weekends, I will just go into Claude Co-work and I'll spend an hour or two just like building things out in just like heavy revision. And now I'm getting a lot of insights, whether it's on our CRM data. You could ask it things that you previously would never have asked the team. Like I'll ask it, go through all meetings and all emails to a prospective customer and look at speed to response. Look at like time between meetings. Look at like, there's like a lot of, because it can comb through so much data, it can really go deep in ways that previously we were not. And then it allows us to really look at the business differently. So I happy to screen share if you guys want and just kind of talk through some of the stuff we're doing internally.
Yeah, I'd love to see that, John. Please.
Okay. So here's just like an example of like all sorts of tasks I've been learning. And I'm in Claude Co-work here, and I had it just like organized my desktop, and now it's just like continuously like keeping things clean. So I think even little like menial tasks, like it goes through all of my Slack messages now, it goes to my emails, it'll send me summaries. I just kind of pulled up some example data here, and then what it did was like, when you don't trust it quite yet, ask for proposals before it takes action. And then here I'd kind of walk through the structure. And then like, hey, I'm an Excel person. Yeah, I'm in finance. So can you build an Excel? And then it went, great. Now let's take action. And then can you make this a weekly task? And so now, every Tuesday it's organizing my desktop. So lots of like little tasks. I'm candidly not the most organized person in the world. So lots of like, whether it's like email inboxes, cleaning, like, hey, sort between like things I should read and shouldn't read, or things here, like organize everything. So now I just can kind of have everything streaming into one folder and it's auto organized. And it's the same with, my cloud drives and everything else. Talking a little bit about, just kind of hop over to talking through some examples we're seeing in Campfire. We have AI throughout the whole product. So like, bank reconciliations, it has AI built in the core. But the one that, my co-work moment within Campfire and for our customers we've heard was the custom agent platform. And so this we can actually chat with it, or you can have it kick off a pre-built prompt. Everything from like SOX readiness for going public. It'll go through all the controls on your account. It'll look through everything you would need there, over to just like doing an adjusting entry. And you just chat with it to build a custom workflow, not the drag and drop builders, or not, obviously no code need to be written, because so many folks say we're able to automate the first 80% of the work, and the last 20% was like it's very manual, or there's some custom accrual. And so I'll just kind of go through this here. And you just chat through it, and I'll just kind of walk through a few examples here. Like on the finance side, I'd use this headcount plan to build a forecast for Q2. I uploaded a plan at the bottom here, add commentary, build slides. Here's our slide deck format. It prepared a plan for me. It's a 19-pager. And then, I'll go ahead and pull that up here. I had it build out a deck. And so it built the full Q2 forecast for us, did some analysis, wrote some recommendations, at the end here. And a lot of folks will say like, why, yes, we've got a great MCP. But I think for me, like, I like going into the system because it has a lot of context that maybe are not coming in through MCP. And then also it's in a secure environment. I do build a lot of apps myself, but I either run them locally or it gets a little tougher to share with other employees in a secure way, given the sensitivity a lot of the data. So I think this is in a SOC 2, SOC 1 environment. This is under the controls. This is, behind our single sign-on. And so it's gotten me a bit more comfortable on the sensitive data, but I'm building a lot of apps myself that are just for me out of Claude Co-work. And so I think there's been two approaches there. The other thing I'll show is a lot of folks like building custom dashboards. So we built, one here and we just, would riff on it. But going back to the comment of like a team member, I'm having Claude and I'm having Campfire like send things to me in Slack because that's really where I work and that's where the rest of my team sends me things. It's not me going into each system and finding them in a CRM or in an ERP. And so it's really like where does the work happen? Is it the leadership channel that we want to look at like a updated cache model every Monday at 8 a.m. and someone in BizOps, here was previously posting that. Now there's an agent that's kind of going in at 8 a.m., doing the work, sending to the team. And, that individual is now able to pick up some other tasks. So I think that's been, just a couple areas that we're like we have a all hands meeting later today. It built all the slides, AI did.
Awesome.
So I think there was really all the Excel models, everything is a first draft with AI now.
Hey everyone, Zac and Anthony here. Thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying the podcast as much as we are.
The whole idea behind the A to Z of AI was to share how some of the smartest people we know are actually using AI in their day-to-day lives and work.
Needless to say, Anthony and I have learned a lot. And judging from the responses we've received, you have too. If you've gotten something out of this podcast, please like and subscribe. It helps the podcast in a big way, and it's hugely motivating.
Many more great conversations to come. Thanks for listening. John, I want to call out for such a shout out, like awesome to see Embers a little bit more closely and what you guys have built on Campfire. That's terrific. And I'm sure you've already gotten amazing customer feedback from them using it. Also really great to hear about how you're using AI. And I think both Zac and I can relate with that, how co-work has become this magical moment for us as well. I am curious to hear from you on what your team members built, perhaps in that show and tell channel. Or maybe let me ask this question to you in this way. Like, what surprised you from what they were sending across? What were they building in co-work that you were like, oh, wow, this is really cool. This is really valuable across those teams?
Yeah, I would say it was the number of like someone in CX built an app to manage all of their customer projects. Like they built their own, call it workflow management. That was very custom to the team. They just built it for themselves. And then they're like, hey, everybody, here's this new app. And like we had a kind of a homegrown, call it Asana. The marketing team, we have an events team here that loves working with your team. And they built their own event kind of app. And so they vibed their own app. And that's just like perfectly built for us, exactly what we want to see. I think just like the level of customization. And then to my point earlier of like, I'm now getting a daily refresh on like our forecast for the quarter. And it's not just looking at like what the rep thinks is going to happen. It's like, what is this rep's close rate at this stage? Like going through like another level of detail to call a number. And it's calling it at such a high cadence that was previously untenable, that I think the tighter feedback loop we're getting on what's happening in the moment. And then just like wow, the software is like really built for us, has been some of the things internally that folks have said, like, this has really changed my role. And it's made work more fun. I mean, no one liked kind of updating the sales deck every week for the sales meeting. So now that AI is picking that up, I think it's been making, at all levels of Campfire, allowed folks to focus on things that have bigger impact.
So this is really cool. I want to surface a few things that you've said and kind of put them together. One, let's go back to the beginning here. You all have grown, right, in terms of headcount as well as client base, et cetera. So AI has been enormously helpful for you, and it hasn't been as though it has meant, hey, 12 people, we're good. This is unlocked enormous efficiency for you, but there's still a human in the loop all over the place. There's still enormous work to be done. What I'm also hearing that I really love is, on the one hand, these tools are helping you and your team make efficient some things that are very time consuming, clunky, not great uses of your very smart team members' time, things like putting together PowerPoint decks. All of that's fantastic. You're also getting to customize tools that maybe they aren't even out there on the market, and maybe they're not the kinds of tools you would even consider buying. Querying whether a company would usually buy an events management tool, but now you have this amazing internally created efficiency tool. And that leads me to my favorite thing, which is, and this goes to what you were talking about earlier when you first showed Claude Code. You're using these tools to do things that you probably wouldn't have made time for before, but are huge value adds to you, right? So this just goes to that idea that, while we are all afraid that AI is going to take our jobs, well, maybe we'll just get to do things that we couldn't justify doing before, but that have huge value. So that's going to lead me to kind of my next big question, which is, how has your role changed? How have your responsibilities changed? What does your job in particular look like now versus how, let's say, it might have if you try to kick this company off without AI and without the development of agents and Claude Code and everything that you have access to today?
Yeah, it's been transformative for me as a founder. So I'll talk through more of like the non-finance side. I used to, just being an Excel junkie, just used to like kind of prepare a mock-up in Excel, and then I kind of did a lightweight, Figmas. And now I'm just like vibe, like the agent platform. I actually spent a weekend vibe coding, what we call now more of like a vision statement. And I, spent 10 hours building it out to every detail, all the depth that I wanted. And then I handed that over to our product team, and they just had incredible detail of, here's kind of the things that are important. And then I had AI write a one-page summary, because I used Co-work to build it. AI wrote a one-page summary, and it had so much context of like the whole weekend of iterating that it was like, here's exactly what it should be. Here's why this is different than what other folks are doing. And we can really operate with more clarity, because before it was kind of like a lot of things were getting lost in translation. On the finance side, I go so deep now anytime I want, not waiting on anybody. It's just there in the moment. Going into going to the all hands today, I was just pinging I have everything connected to Claude, Campfire, but all the whole stack. And I can just kind of ask any question of the business. And I get that insights, whether it's a board meeting, whether it's, an all hands, all the data is there. And so then it's more of like going back to the prior point, I spend more time just like actioning data as opposed to pulling data. It's him getting more depth. Even I've been at Adobe, we had very large finance teams. I'm getting more depth with tighter feedback loops than I ever have in my career. And that's been incredible. I think to your comment on like 12 to 100 people, like, you're still hiring a lot of people. I push the team here, like, we're AI first in every task we do. You need to try it with AI before you do it manually, like with slide or a task or build an app. So if everybody can be 10x, then going call it from 10 to 100 people, we can really 100x the output.
Yes.
Is really the mindset. Like, we're growing so fast, we've had to hire a lot of people, but we really drive home AI proficiency during the recruiting interview process, but also once you're onboarded. And then as new models come out, we're really pushing the team. Like, for our internal support, the product's gotten so deep and broad. We built an app that reads the code base and gives our CS team very technical feedback on what the product can do in a very like nuanced way. Like, here's exactly how this corner case is solved by the product today, because it's reading the actual code and it's not reading support docs written by a human. And so there's like another level of depth that previously, we were going to have an engineer, go into the code base for every technical accounting question that we get. But now we're getting that level of rigor. So the customer experience has been dramatically improved as well. I think most companies these days have looked to AI for customer success. We're, of course, particularly nights and weekends, it's amazing. High quality answers, SLAs are phenomenal. meeting customers in the moment. So it's been beyond kind of what you saw in products. I think just thinking about AI, about it, it's not, it can really drive a much higher quality experience for the employee, but of course for the customer.
I love all of this, John. How do you think about, especially as you're encouraging the team to be AI first, how do you think about measuring success?
That's actually one of the big debates right now. There's something called token maxing, maybe you've heard of, and there's
Yep.
token leaderboards, and it's like, oh, whoever's using the most tokens, is the most, call it like AI forward. The problem there is then you drive this huge incentive to drive a lot of tokens. Like I said earlier, I don't really worry about the cost of token maxing. It's just more of like in engineering, writing the most code is not necessarily the best result. In many ways, kind of less code is cleaner or higher quality to receive the same result. So I don't look at like token consumption. I really look at like can the team deliver like very high quality work with AI, but then can the team own the work? And so the ownership of the work is like, and I struggle with this sometimes too, which is like, maybe there's like some of the bullet points in the slide you didn't fully review, or something doesn't quite make sense, or you're not quite in alignment with what the AI prepared. I think just like anyone else on your team, AI is amazing, but you really have to own the output. And I think there's a lot of like AI slop, is the phrase that, how do we, and so my big push for the employees is like, be AI first, but you have to own the quality and you own the output just like anybody else on your team. And that's been, hard for some folks because it's easy to just AI looks like the best employee in the world and you just ship it. But ultimately, it, like I said earlier, got some stuff wrong on that kind of sales slide. Like that could have been catastrophic for commissions and even employment if it's kind of coming up with the wrong results. So it's amazing, but we got to be thoughtful in how we interact.
John, that makes me think of something that I'll often say in the student context. I spend a lot of time teaching students who, of course, have enormous access to AI, and I am watching in real time that the top 10% students are using artificial intelligence to become incredible. The bottom 90% of students, which is a huge chunk, are unfortunately less and less and less actually proficient, which is always the danger of these tools. They can be the best learning and tool you could possibly have access to, or they could cripple you. Now, you mentioned that you're thinking about AI use a lot at the interviewing stage too. I wonder if you could share a little bit about what you're looking for, how you're thinking about that as you're considering candidates to join the team.
Yeah, everybody at the company goes through a case study. Whether you're an engineer, you got to write some code, or marketing, you got to present on a marketing topic. We really ask, how did you perform this work? And come to the prior point, like we really dig deep on the work to ensure that they are owning it. It's coming from their own life experiences. And so I think like the best predictor of success here is like just have them perform some real close as possible, real life work for the role. And then like, what tools did you use? I think like if they're using a tool that's more nuanced, like a Gamma for building slides, that's great. I think if it was built by hand, but then like someone the other day had some spelling errors in there. And so like, what happened if this is our best foot forward, then what is it going to look like if you were to work here? Those are the things, even during back channeling on candidates, we'll ask about, where were they, not just say, were they good at it? Cause they'll always say yes, but like give a specific example of when you saw them use AI and rank them against the rest of your team from an AI proficiency. I think like really digging deeper on
That's
AI,
good.
not just like, are you using Claude or not? These days, you got to go a lot deeper than that.
Yeah. I mean, it's this moment is so interesting because in addition to still needing great technical chops, judgment is more important than it's ever been for all of us, right? Not just on the leadership team, but, I think all the time about how what we're really doing when we're using AI is we're delegating. And oftentimes our employees are delegating years, sometimes decades before a typical promotion pathway would have put them in a position to delegate, right? So like the amount of judgment folks need earlier on is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, we just hired our first intern, and they're essentially managing people because
Yeah,
they've got an army of agents that
that's right.
they're actually as the intern, they're reviewing work, here. And so but I would say for young people, it's like it's a great time because to your point, end of 2022, kind of everyone was on the same starting line. The gun for the marathon fired, at the same time for all of us. So um young folks we're calling them system forward finance and accounting people. Um, they're seeing like incredible, like talked to someone yesterday that got promoted because they were AI forward. I think there's a lot of folks saying, hey, we're looking for people that are going to be systems forward, AI forward. That's the future of the role. And so, go learn, go try things new. The one thing I do encourage all the employees is like, I'm okay if like we're all in the learning spectrum. So let's just try it. Do it the old way and the new way at least
Yeah,
one or two times before we move over. But we're going to make some mistakes. We're going to buy some software that ended up not being the right tool, or maybe it demoed well, but in reality, it wasn't for
right.
us. Let's de-risk that as much as we can. But in this level of innovation, like it's all moving so fast, you're going to make some mistakes, and you got to be okay with that.
Yeah, we used to make mistakes slower, but now we can make mistakes faster, and that's really good.
Yeah.
So, uh, just kind of closing this out. We usually will close with what we'll call kind of the A to Z moment, and the goal here is really to get down to there's some audience member out there who has maybe played with AI a little bit, or they haven't used it a whole lot, and they're really just looking to figure out how to move forward, right? How do they develop the skills that they need, or how do they take the first step? So I might ask, what's one AI habit that you can't imagine living without today?
Ooh, I will to the first part of the comment for
Yeah,
someone that's new, like definitely just download Claude Desktop, get going in Claude Co-work, um, and really start to leverage and build something, build a little app, build some slides, build a spreadsheet. One thing I can't live without, I think just selfishly our Ember agent platform within Campfire, it's sending me sales tax nexus reports, cash flow roll forwards. Um, I used to just go into a system and have the finance team refresh things, and now they're just being sent to me on, if I want it on a Saturday, I get it on a Saturday now. It's refreshed on a Sunday morning. I think the cadence, the rigor of all agents, but for internally our own, has been something that's been amazing.
awesome. And what are you most excited about over this next 6 months, John?
I would say just looking at the model development. There's, Anthropic was claiming their new model was so powerful they couldn't release it. We joke internally, our own model was so powerful we couldn't release it too. Uh, but I would say seeing where it's going is exciting. Candidly also a little scary, but riding the AI wave is certainly kind of where, we all should be positioning ourselves and our companies. And so every time something new drops, just encouraging everybody to go check out whatever's new on the AI market. Maybe not OpenClaw for security reasons if you're not quite comfortable, but at least learn about it, at least read
Yes.
about it, and at least stay informed. Because as soon as I saw Co-work and tried it, I was like, wow. So I'm always looking for kind of that next big catalyst. There's a lot of noise, but once you find that next big catalyst, it's transformative.
It's wonderful. John, I love how practical everything you've shared with us today has been.
Thank you.
And I really want to encourage folks, like you've encouraged them. If you haven't downloaded Claude, please do so. Play around with it. But B, the broader thing that you're encouraging all of your team to do, and I'd encourage all of us to do, which is just try it, play around and test it. We want to say a huge thanks, John. This has been a terrific conversation. Couldn't think of a better way for us to kick off season 2. I would really, really appreciate your time, your insights, your leadership. Congratulations on what you have and are doing at Campfire. We're excited to continue to follow you and see all that you guys will do. And just want to say thank you for today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I mean, we've come so far, but I tell the team here it's still day zero.
Yes.
We got a lot of work to do.
That's the mindset.
No, honor to be a guest today. Thanks. So hopefully the audience found that helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. Thanks again for listening to the A to Z of AI. I'm Anthony Thomas.
And I'm Zac Henderson.
This episode was produced by the Podcrafts team. Special thanks to Jenna Bessemer and Julie Steinhagen.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and share it with someone who'd find it valuable.
Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.